Hey, welcome back to Running Thought. Running Thought with the Rabbi, number 3. Check out the scenery today. Stop for a moment. Beautiful Central Park, New York City. Unreal. It's just so, even the ducks and the geese are having fun. So today, we're going to talk about an incredible thought that I just heard from the Rebbe about the splitting of the sea. Really revolutionary, beautiful thought that we could take with us forever. So the Rebbe starts out with the idea of how one of the things that earned us to exit Egypt and to have the sea split for us was actually our children who left Egypt, and actually while within Egypt they were trained by their parents not just to observe the Torah as they could at the time, or as whatever they knew at the time, but even not to compromise on what seemingly is not so important, but the customs of the Jews, where the Midrash tells us that the Jewish people were very careful not even to change their clothing to assimilate and to look like their surroundings. They didn't change their language nor their names. They used their Jewish names like Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc. So the Rebbe says that it was the children whose sacrifice during their stay in Egypt, in Mitzrayim, and also afterwards, when they left Egypt, it was their merit that earned us the splitting of the sea. And the splitting of the sea pretty much means that nature moves out of the way for us. And we need that, says the Rebbe. Unfortunate but true, that the Jewish people are like, the Talmud describes us, that we're like a sheep, a little sheep among 70 lions, or a little sheep among 70 wolves. And the other nations try to, as you know, as history is showing itself repeatedly, that they try to devour us. So we need those miracles. We need the splitting of the sea. And that happens in the merit of us keeping not only and observing not only that which is required of us by law, by Torah law, biblically or rabbinically, but even by the customs, literally the customs, and that it's obvious and noticeable to our children that this is important, and that's what keeps us going, and that's what earns us these miracles. And now the Rebbe goes on to say a fascinating thing I never heard before about, good to see, about the splitting of the sea itself, that the Torah describes there were walls of water. The water became a wall to the right side and to the left side. This is a beautiful thought. We're going to stretch this out a little so you can see the water. And we're not talking about this water, but this is beautiful water in Central Park here in New York City. Awesome water. But the Rebbe is talking about the water that split in the sea for the Jewish people. It became a wall to the right side and to the left side. And the Rebbe explains, what are these walls? And he says as follows: when a person goes out into the world, and there's two directions, two approaches of their Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, that which tries to dissuade us from living a Jewish life. There's the right approach, from the right side, and then there's the left side approach. The right side approach is where a person does very well, is very successful, and is on the top of the world, wealthy, healthy, just doing well in every area. Then the evil inclination approaches that person and says, hey, you did well. You don't need God. Who needs God? You're fine. You're awesome. You're on top of the world. You're influential. Everyone loves you. You're successful. Who needs God? You know who needs God? The people when they were in the desert, they needed God. There were snakes and scorpions, a hot desert sun, no water. They needed God. But you're good to go. You're very successful. You don't need God. That's one approach on the right. And then there's the left approach, the left side, when God forbid things are not doing well and a person's poor and not successful and doesn't have the honor or credit that he wants and thinks he deserves. So there, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, comes and says, you know what? You don't have time for God right now. New York City. This is passing the east side over here in Central Park, New York City. So the poor person might have a thought that says, you don't need God. You don't have time for God right now because you need to take care of yourself. You need to do well in business. You need to make some money. That means you don't have time. You can't afford not to work on Shabbos, to close your store on Shabbat. You can't afford it because you need the money. You need the big bucks. Or you can't really afford to follow the laws of honesty and integrity in business because, you know, you need to make a buck. You need to make it. And so you don't have time for God right now. When things are good, when things will be well, that's when we'll bring God back into my life. So these are two approaches, says the Rebbe, of the Yetzer Hara, of the evil inclination that will try to dissuade us from luxury and wealth to poverty and not good circumstances, to not follow God's ways. But here's the clincher, says the Rebbe. If we only raise our children the other way, and not only ourselves but also our children, that every part of the Torah is essential, not just the biblical